So a couple months ago, you decide to sign on for another 4 years. Tell me about that decision. What was that like to decide you want to do this for another 4 years?
Um, I think in some ways it's a tough decision. After 4 years of doing this job before and going through the Olympic cycle and experiencing the Olympic Games, I think anyone who's experienced it will tell you it's such an incredible high that there's a natural low that comes with it, and there's a lot of kind of soul searching, trying to figure out what the next step is, and many conversations with my family, with my wife, and at the end of the day, for me, it did become fairly simple of a decision, but it took me a long time to get there, and it was that process that was probably more difficult than anything.
You win the gold medal, the team wins the gold medal. As soon as it's over, do you think, I want to do this again? Or do you think, I need to decompress from this? What were your immediate emotions?
There's pretty much every emotion you can imagine. I mean, I had the emotions like, yes, I want to do this again, sign me up right away. And then there was like, no chance I want to do this again. This was stressful and intense and exhausting. So it's impossible to describe the emotions that you feel. And that was the hard thing, I think, going back to the process and making the decision was, differentiating between what I was feeling at that moment, that day, whether it was just going to be a short-term feeling or thinking long-term, and trying to really dig a little deeper into my soul to figure out what was it that I was wanted to do.
Anyone that knows your career as a coach knows you've been pretty successful at the collegiate level and now at the Olympic level. There isn't a championship you haven't won. What keeps driving you to do this when you've kind of checked off all the boxes of things that a coach wants to win?
Well, I think the first thing is, I do hear that, and for me, it's don't get me wrong, I love to win, right? It's great to be up on top of the podium, but at the same time, it's never been about winning for me. The most important thing for me is just the journey. It's the process. It's learning and getting better, feeling really passionate about something. Those things are more important to me than anything. I've been through experiences in which, I or my team has ended up on the top of the podium and has won a championship, and it hasn't been a good experience. And it's been those experiences that have really, reaffirmed my belief in the process and the journey and the fact of just self-improvement and how important that is. If I'm not feeling like I'm getting better, then whether we're successful or not, I'm not interested in being a part of it.
Let's look back to kind of a little bit before the Olympics, because you have a World Championship coming up this year. The last World Championship you went to, I think you've admitted many times, is kind of a defining moment for that group that won gold in London. The team did not do very well in Shanghai, and I know you were not pleased with how the team played, and maybe it was a little doubtful going into Pan American Games to see how this team kind of rebound. Just tell me a little bit about that response from that group in less than 3 months to kind of go from a loss that a lot of them had never experienced to then coming through in one of those amazing finishes to kind of secure a berth to London.
Yeah, I mean, that was an emotional 3 months, probably more emotional than any point during that entire quad was those 3 months, and certainly going from, like you said, the low part. But again, that was so key for us because we had experienced so much success, and just in regards to the result, that I think we became blind to our weaknesses, and it was easy to push aside maybe some weaknesses that I was bringing up or our staff was, because we were getting the result every time. And as soon as you don't get the result, then I think reality hit us pretty hard, and that was just so important for us to come back down to earth, realize what we needed to really work on, to dig a little deeper again, and to go from that position to being able to qualify for the Olympic Games at the Pan Ams was a great moment and a great ending of sort to that very emotional three-month period.
The Olympic Games, I know the coach never wants to be in the news or in the headlines, but there was one game in particular that you came away with some notoriety. It was a semifinal game against Australia, and you've been extremely frank about this, and I think gained a lot of fans in the media from your just willingness to admit what happened in that situation. With the timeout, the team ends up coming away with the victory, and the players have all been pretty funny in their recollections of it too. When you think back on it a year later, what are your memories of that, and how did that make you better as a coach?
It's a great moment. It's as I tell people all the time, it was the worst mistake of my entire career, yet it was the proudest moment of my career, and it was the proudest moment simply because, I'm a big believer in teams. And when you talk about teams, it's not just the athletes in the water, and it's not just the coaching staff on the deck. It is all of us working together to make it happen. We're all in this together. And, one of the big things as a coach for me that I always want to try to accomplish is if I do and our staff does the job that we're supposed to do, then when it comes to game time, they're going to be able to operate on their own in adverse times, and they're going to be able to, and if I instill the confidence and leadership in them to be able to perform, then they don't need me. And that was just a perfect example of not needing me in that moment. And again, it was the worst mistake I've ever made. But at the same time, it's a very proud moment because that was just a perfect symbol and sign of what the goal I was trying to accomplish way back in 2009 when I took over the team. And I will always remember that moment. It will keep me humble as well. The athletes love to still joke with me about that moment.
That win obviously moved you on to the gold medal game. For all of the nail biters and overtime games and everything, not by no means was it easy, but the gold medal game, you guys got out to a big lead, and there was some time in that fourth period to really let it kind of sink in, barring the unreal, that this was going to happen. You don't get that luxury hardly ever in a pretty major game. When did you kind of let yourself realize, or did it not happen until the final horn? When did you let yourself realize we actually did this?
Yeah, well, we scored in the beginning of the fourth to go up 8-2, and at that point, I think a thought came into my mind like, hey, we might do that. That was honestly the first time I'd actually thought about it. But still, I quickly went from that thought back to focus. And the semifinal game helped me do that because I immediately also thought about how I blew. We thought we had the semifinal game won, and I kind of blew it there at the end. So that game helped me focus actually the rest of the fourth, and probably didn't allow me to enjoy it very much until there was probably honestly about a minute left, and we were up 8-5. So I'm sure everyone on the bench was celebrating a little bit earlier than maybe the fans were, but as a coach, you're so focused on the moment until you really know 100% it's going to be the game's going to be over and we got the game in hand. You don't really relax.
The game ends, medal ceremony, athletes get their medals. They do a wonderful gesture of putting all their medals around your neck. Can you compare all of that to anything else you've experienced in your life?
I made a joke before the start that you're going to make me cry, and you immediately bring up that moment, and yeah, it's certainly one of the greatest moments I've ever had. There's just a symbol of their appreciation and respect for what I meant to them as a team and to them as individuals, and I'll remember that for the rest of my life, certainly. And I can't thank all 13 of them enough for showing me that gesture of love and appreciation, and it'll stick with me for a long time.